What's up, witches, pagans, and other mental health warriors of YouTube? It's me, ya boy Shane, and I'm back today with another, perhaps uncharacteristically serious video, and that's okay. It can be, you know, unboxing videos and gift guides and giggles all the time, sadly. But today I wanted to talk about, you know, what happens when magic isn't enough, you know, or maybe the role of magic and witchcraft in some very serious earth plane concerns, right? And I'm going to relate this back to my current mental health struggles, but I think you'll find that it's applicable to, you know, all kinds of things, maybe medical or legal or, you know, any of those kinds of situations, I think kind of similarly, right? So there's a time and a place for magic, but it is not the be-all, end-all, cure-all, you know, panacea that some of us like to pretend it is sometimes. And that's just real talk, right? Coming from me. I love magic. I love witchcraft. And I love walking in that world that is steeped in that mystery and power. But I also enjoy living here on the earth. And so I know firsthand that, you know, as attractive and glamorous and tempting it is to be, to run to the altar for every little thing, it's also not realistic. And I don't mean it's not practical. I mean it's not realistic. I mean, when you are faced with a medical emergency or, you know, a deeply serious legal problem, magic should be the auxiliary work, not the primary work, right? Your first step should be to go see a doctor or a lawyer, you know, not to light a candle. And I think that's a hard pill for a lot of our practitioners to swallow. I'm sure everyone knows a handful of people who would love to pretend that, you know, that's not the case and that they can just, you know, magic their way out of a bad situation. And I don't think that magic was... I don't think that it should be for that. I don't think it's intended to be for that. I think magic is meant to be the booster, not the solution, not the primary solution. Magic should be the catalyst, you know, that energetically kicks off the other things that you need to do to solve your problems. But magic is not the solution. You know, if you're facing... some sort of illness, right? God's forbid, like COVID or cancer. Yeah, sure, do some healing work or ask your loved ones to perform some healing work on your behalf. But also go to the goddamn doctor. Take the medication you're supposed to take. Go to physical therapy if you're rehabbing, you know, an injury. You know, you have to do these very basic, baseline level actions in order for your magic to work at its best, you know, in order for your spells to achieve maximum efficacy. And I am echoing a little bit some of the things I talked about in an earlier video called Magic Works and We Don't Get to Decide How, which, real talk, is one of my favorite videos that I think I've ever done, and nobody ever watches it. What can you do? But I talk about a lot of magical fundamentals there, such as the fact that magic flows along the path of least resistance, right? So if you're going to do magic for something, but you don't bother removing any of the roadblocks to your success, it's going to be a lot harder for that magic to manifest, right? It just is. You know, so I talk about things like... you know, magical specificity, and I talk about things like, you know, if you're going to do magic to gain employment, do it, but also make sure your resume and your cover letter have no grammatical or typographical errors, you know, make sure you're sending it out and that you're making follow-up phone calls and that, you know, you're asking your friends if they know of anyone who's hiring in your field. Like, you can't expect magic to do all the heavy lifting. It's meant to be an aid. It's meant to work in tandem with the actions that you're taking on the material plane. You know, that's why I say, like, it's the supplement, it's not the solution. And I think I touched on those things in that earlier video. It's been a while since I've watched it, but, you know, I think these are some fundamental concepts that we're not taught, especially in the beginning. You know, we're taught about how to cast a circle and how to choose a color candle, how to dress a candle, and how to, you know, read an astrological almanac to a certain extent, right? Usually it starts and ends with, oh, don't do anything during Mercury retrograde. And this is how to read your horoscope. You know, stuff on a very, very basic, you know, level. But we're not taught a lot of these magical principles, like, you know, get out of your own goddamn way. So I say all this today because of something I've been struggling with lately. It's a very long story, which I'll spare you kind people on the internet. But the upshot of it is, due to a giant miscommunication, I went off of my Lexapro for 2 weeks. Cold turkey, which is not ideal. It was just giant misunderstanding between me and my doctor and my pharmacy, and it was a mess, right? And it was further complicated by the fact that I ran out of my meds right before the Thanksgiving holiday, and then nobody could get in touch with each other over the weekend, and then I went into withdrawal, and it was really very bad. And then detoxed completely, and then came through the other side and was not having a good time. And then my doctor gave me a refill. And for the past couple of days, I've just been kind of going back and forth on whether or not I want to even start taking medication again. So full disclosure, I've been on citalopram for almost 14 months. That is the generic for Lexapro, right? Because we're not fancy enough up in here to get the brand name. But it's all the same shit. My doctor, when he had originally prescribed it to me, had said, you know, this is probably not intended for you to be on forever, right? These types of drugs are to buy you some time and give you the space to work out your anxieties and depressions and like the root causes and your coping mechanisms, you know, with a qualified counselor in the process of therapy. And I'm a big believer in therapy. I'm a big believer in the talking cure and some cognitive behavioral stuff, right? So I've been doing the therapies. But it's not enough. And I was only off of my meds for a few days when I started to sincerely struggle. And the decision to go back on my medication was not an easy one, even though I was struggling. And even though I was having some, you know, less than stellar thoughts, right? Like intrusive thoughts I couldn't control. And even though I was struggling in some other ways with, it was still not an easy decision to start my meds again. And I called up everybody I could think of and I was like, what do you think I should do? And I went on, one of the 8,000, magical, witchy, Wiccan, kind of themed Facebook pages that I belong to. One of which that deals exclusively with mental health issues among the pagan community. And I was like, what do you guys think I should do? And of course, I've been harassing my best friends about this every 5 minutes. And I even did a tarot reading about it. And all roads pointed to, get on your goddamn meds again. What are you doing? And I still didn't want to. And I thought, you know, well, between therapy and with all the things that I've learned this year and with, you know, magical support, you know, maybe I can beat this thing alone. Maybe I don't need to be on medication. And I think that is a beautiful and convenient lie that my asshole brain is trying to tell me, because my asshole brain doesn't want me to be here, which I've never understood, right? Does it not realize that if I cease to exist, so does it? But, yeah, it just got me thinking about the fact that, you know, magic is not a substitute for the real life solutions to our problems. To such an extent that it is almost dangerous to treat magic as if it were a substitute for the solution to our real life problems. If you are not going to get chemo or radiation or surgery and just rely on witchcraft to cure your cancer, that is a dangerous decision. If you are being sued for, you know, custody of your kids, or if your business is going into foreclosure, or your home, or whatever, and you decide that instead of hiring a lawyer, you are just going to rely on witchcraft to solve your legal problems, that is a dangerous decision. That's not just stupid. That could actually have harmful consequences for you and for the people around you. And if you are really invested in your own success, right, at, you know, whatever it is, with your health, your finances, whatever, then why wouldn't you take every possible measure that you could to ensure that success? And I, you know, I decided it's time to practice what I preach. And as of this morning, right, December 9th, 2020, I am back on my medication. And you know, I'm looking forward to enjoying my life again and enjoying some glowingly good mental health. But it would have been not just dumb, but downright dangerous too, to say, I don't need to be on SSRIs. I'm just gonna, you know, light a candle. I'm just gonna say this prayer. I'm just gonna... Sometimes magic is not enough. And I know we don't like to hear that, right? I know magic is fun, and it's a lot sexier than going to get a mammogram or going to fill out paperwork, or, you know, then it's way more fun than doing your taxes or getting a financial planner or going on yet another job interview that you don't feel like is getting you anywhere. Doing a spell is way more fun than all that shit. But sometimes you got to be you know, a whole ass grown up adult. You got to be a big boy or a big girl or a big non-binary person, you know, and pull up the big boy pants and just go do what you got to do. Sometimes you have to, as my shirt says, chop wood and carry water. This was an early Yule gift from my bestie Jack. And I had to wear it today because I think it's relevant to what we're talking about a little bit. So, yeah. You know, and I say all this to say, none of this comes out of superstition, right? I've heard a lot of crazy shit, being in the pagan community for 2 decades, as I have. And I've heard people say, oh, you know, you can't use your magic too much because the gods will take it away from you. Or you can't use your magic for frivolous things because the gods will punish you. Or, you know, all sorts of ridiculousness. Kids, it doesn't work that way. It's never worked that way. It never will. So when I say I use my magic in conjunction with these other methods, it's not because I think that magic should be a last resort. It's not because I think that, you know, magic is not a gift that, you know, we should use anytime, anywhere, anyhow that we see fit. I do think magic is absolutely a gift, and we should absolutely leverage it to make our lives better. But, you know, while you have your head in the clouds, just make sure you have your at least one foot planted firmly on the ground, because like I said, it can't do everything. Magic isn't magical, if that makes any sense. Magic isn't magical. I kind of like that. You know, sometimes it requires the support of science or a paralegal or whatever, you know. Sometimes magic is enough, and that's a harsh truth brought to you today by someone who is 2 weeks off of their antidepressant, but who has righted the ship. Because, you know, I recognize that in this instance, magic would not have been enough to keep me from, you know, from severely impacting the quality of my life. And that's that. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear your comments. You know, tell me I'm right. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I must be stopped at all costs. Yeah, feel free to comment below, like the video, and share the video, and subscribe to the channel, do all of the things. See, I can tell you that therapy has worked, because now I can say that without feeling like a complete and total fraud. You know, hashtag imposter syndrome. So yeah, let's keep the conversation about mental health going, the conversation about the role of magic in mental health, if it should even have a place. And until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.